lighter on your feet because you won't fear the rolling part, the falling part, right?
Very true.
Right. Nice to have mastered chemi.
Yes. Oh, it saved my butt a number of times. Yeah, no question about that. But and now we have to look at it though in a flexible mind kind of a way as well, because we may be presented with disclosure. And, there's all these people out on the Internet. A lot of them I like, they're very engaging personalities, like, what's that guy's name? David Wilcock. He's out there creating videos, and he's, working his poor butt off on all this stuff, and he really sees disclosure coming, and he's all excited about it. He's a little naive in my viewpoint, but that, I think, is age-related more than anything. But one of the things that you never hear any of these people discuss is what happens afterwards. Think of how surreal it would be if disclosure happened. They opened up the Earth for tourists, and 2 weeks from now in downtown Yelm, you've got space aliens trucking about saying, what's local, let's fishing licenses, all this kind of thing, right? No one ever discusses how we're going to cope with en masse with the social disruption that will occur the minute that disclosure is officially announced. And it's more than just the horrid crimes that have been going for 50 or 60 years. It's more than the breakaway civilization. Just at the core level of what will humans do in our relationships with each other when we're aware that the non-human is among us on a daily basis, officially. It's going to create some really strange conditions, I think.
That kind of reminds me of that series Flash Forward, because where everybody is knocked out on the whole planet for 2 minutes.
I saw the first one of those, and have never been able to catch any of the others. I was quite intrigued, though.
Yeah, they're on the web. But anyway, the thing about that experience was everyone had something in common, and you could talk to a stranger and say, well, what did you see in your Flash future dream, and I would think that this would kind of have impact like that as well.
I think you're quite correct. There would be that "where were you" kind of thing, like Kennedy assassination.
Right.
That kind of a deal. There would be that commonly shared experience across the whole planet. That really is a binding sort of a social. Well, again, maybe that's going to be part of the balance. Maybe the disruptive features of all of us having to come to individual terms with a new place in universe may be compensated for at a universal level by the common suffering of it all and experience of it all. But anyway, we may actually, according to Richard Hoagland, be approaching that period of time. And I think there's other pressures out there in the environment, as much as I never thought I'd see it happen, simply because I know politicians, no one wants to stand up and say, we did this, right? Because look what they're actually confessing to. They're confessing that the government knows about space aliens, but much more than that. They're confessing, basically, that it's true. All these people that have been dealing with free energy for all these years were assassinated. All those people that were killed for what they knew about UFOs were done so because of the shadow people within our own organizations that we're paying for. And basically, we're all complicit to our own duping by propagandists because we're paying for it. We're also complicit in paying for the death and destruction of who knows how many people who merely stumbled on the truth. And I didn't think any politician would ever want to admit that, because it opens up this huge can of worms, retribution, suits, and all that kind of thing. Maybe not, though. Maybe the experience will be so shattering to our collective psyche that we don't go that way. Maybe we all instantly give up lawyers, and everybody who's a lawyer gives it up as a profession and takes up honest work. Who knows?
Well, here's where that mind flexibility is so important, because there's that monkey mind wants to know what's coming. And if it's unknown, you can't know.
Right.
So
it's a nasty little evil thing, yeah.
It is. But it's manageable. It's controllable. Like the aliens amongst us, if we dare to call them aliens, will possibly look way different. And that can be startling, but we already deal with animals. They look very different. They're all furry and everything, and yet we think we can communicate with them very well. It's only a little step beyond that. It's just what we get used to. That is, I think, a big
Well, there's also the
something.
rigidity of the paradigm, and that's what scares me. Because you have we're talking among ourselves, and to some great extent, some degree variant among us, but nonetheless common to all of us, we are aware that things ain't as we're told. And so therefore our view of the universe is different from those other people that get their news from TV and, watch the game and do everything that's appropriate and get rewarded by society and all of this. These poor fellows have a rigidity view that may indeed cause huge psychological problems. And we had seen this actually in some of our earlier reports. And I tied it to the sun disease and all this other stuff because monkey mind wants to know it. We have this archetype of people standing, literally walking across the street, and all of a sudden struck dumb by a thought, and standing there drooling for the rest of the day until someone gets them and moves them, that kind of a deal. And those sorts of things, they're still pending. They're still in the Space Coast Parts entity. I had initially thought it was, like Gurdjieff said, a solar influence, which it may well be because we're getting bombarded with so many of those, but it also may be a practical mental response to the overburdening of their worldview that now has to be shattered in order to accommodate what their officials are telling them is in existence now. And that's difficult. Most people would rather go into active denial of a fact than change a worldview that they've put a number of years' investment in or that they've been trained into all of their lives. And I'm really afraid of the impact that will have on who knows how many people in our society.
Well, you cover that in The Standing Dead.
Yes.
That is so apt, and we know that is the way it is with humans. So I think it is important. If people go to halfpasthuman.com and just get that report, read it. Have a piece of pie handy.
Take a couple of naps,
Take a couple of naps if you need to. It really is not... sometimes we make it sound like it is a frightening thing. It isn't. It is what is.
Well, I think
simply
because we're used to it more. We're not being shocked by this as a first-time information, and that's his point, I think, about the rigid paradigm.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. I mean, when you think about it, it's actually a physical process that people have to overcome. They spend... look at how the religions use this. You ever see these people that in TV that are Jewish and they've got the little cube taped to their head and they go bobbing a lot?
Yes.
Okay, and you notice also that the Muslim schools, the madrasas, have the learning of the Arabic language through the Quran accompanied by chanting and bobbing?
Yes.
Okay, this relates to a mechanism within the physical universe in which pathways are burned with more electrical energy, biochemical electrical energy in your brain relative to certain learning experiences. This is also used in subliminals, neuro-linguistic programming, even when they try and say you can learn a language by having music playing. All of this is true because of the way in which the pathways are burned in your brain. And so the physical bobbing up and down actually adds more physical energy to getting that information into your brain from the madrasa's viewpoint. And from the Jewish viewpoint, what they're doing is they're spiraling or circling in on a particular thought and basically denying the rest of the universe while they're concentrating on this particular thought as they're bobbing up and down with this little black cube on their head. Curious that, of course, they have the black cube on their head, and the Islamists, the Mohammedans, have the black cube in the middle of Mecca in the Hajj. And so there's all these black cubes around, cube being a representation of interlocked tetrahedrons that are fixed. Again, just a strange aside. But within these people's individual minds, and we see this to a certain extent with the repetition and the prayers within the Christian religion, they're attempting to create pathways that are of such a force that you will actively deny reality in order to go back to the comfort of those easily fired off neurons within that specific pathway. And that's really what they're counting on. And that's what the military or anybody that trains someone counts on. You're a pilot. You go in through the pilot training and you go into the simulator. They're burning in pathways in your brain. They attempt to do it such that if there is a reaction, something something untoward, that you don't think, you just jump from pathway to pathway to pathway that already exists without doing any determination, and they've trained you in the form in which those pathways must be addressed to effectively solve the problem. And that level of structure is what I'm talking about in terms of rigidity of view. How much it takes with how many people it depends on their individual karmic life and so on, but I suspect a number of individuals, maybe on the order of millions, would have a real mental breakdown trying to accommodate a wholly new worldview.
Absolutely.
Oh, beautifully explained and very clear. It shall be fascinating to watch this.
Well, I'm saying this to people because when you see the poor bastard in the middle of the road drooling, you know, get out of your car and gently help him over and sit him down on a bench somewhere.
Right, you know what's going on.
Right.
Well, Cliff, we got to take another break with that. So,
sure.
You're listening to Cliff on Beyond the Ordinary. We'll be back right after this.
We're all connected to each other, biological, to the earth, chemical, to the rest of the universe, atomic.
I think nature's imagination is so much greater than man's. He's never gonna let us relax.
We live in an in-between universe where things change alright, but according to patterns, rules, or as we call them, laws of nature.
I'm this guy standing on a planet. Really, I'm just a speck compared with a star. The planet is just another speck. To think about all of this, to think about the vast emptiness of space. There's billions and billions of stars, billions and billions of specks. The beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together.
With Clif at halfpasthuman.com, and it's so cool that we get to have you at least a little while longer.
Precious few moments left.
And the reason, as Clif put it, and go to his website and you can read a portion that he's put up that is fabulous. Pay heed to it and do something. And kind of free your mind. It's going to be very necessary. And look forward to pi.
There you go, yeah. Take what you can from material universe. You know, there's enough suffering out there. Do what you can to relieve that you can.
And for people that haven't read your reports, if there's any online listening, I borrowed that from you because you speak about just eating pie, and I love that. Now, can you talk about what we were asking you about on the break?
Sure, that's the idea that the symbols, that the powers that be use against us, and in fact their entire technique or method, can be in turn adopted by us and used against them. And I find that if we look at it from an Aikidoist or martial arts viewpoint, then basically what we're doing, what we need to do in confronting these individuals is be non-cooperative, because we don't want to cooperate with evil, but we don't want to be violent. We want to be non-violent, because as I said, they know how to deal with violence. They're schooled in that very effectively. And you also place yourself in a point of weakness by succumbing to violence, because they're forcing you down that path so they can control you. And then the other is the non-participation. In whatever way, you can always say, no, I won't participate.